Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and it is the final episode of 2025. I can't believe that it is already December. I can't believe it's the end of December 2025. It feels like it went by in a blip, and yet so much happened at the same time. Today's episode is with the author Marion Winik, and she is also a critic for Kirkus and People and a bunch of other places too that she'll tell you about. And so I'm so excited to talk to her about some of her favorite books of the year. I'm so curious to hear from you what some of your favorite books of the year were. And I will pop over to the Gaze Reading Substack and share what some of mine were. So if you want to follow us over on Instagram, we're at Gaze Reading. And on this post, if you want to share what you've been reading or what some of your favorite books of the year have been, I'm so curious to know. I'm so excited. Were they a guest on Gaze Reading? Did you learn about it from Gaze Reading? If you didn't, but they were a guest, have you listened to the episode? It's always so fun to learn and to check out. This episode is only half of the story. The rest will be over on the Gaze Reading Substack. So Marion shares her top 10 favorite fiction books of the year, tells us a little bit about her book, First Comes Love, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary. And y'all, I just listened to the audiobook after my conversation with her. It is a bonkers story. The audio was great. Highly recommend checking it out. And then the second half of the conversation, which she talks about her favorite memoirs and nonfiction of the year, and where she shares a bit about how the review process works, how writing for Kirkus works, that will all be over on the Gaze Reading Substack, which you still have a couple days to get the annual, or to get a deal on the annual subscription. It's 20% off the annual subscription, and it comes out to about 13 cents a day. So if you're so inclined to support Gaze Reading, that is a great way to do it. This is a labor of love, and every little bit helps in terms of just like keeping the podcast up and running. What else is there to share? Of course, there's the Gaze Reading Book Club through Allstora. The link to that is in the show notes. We're also over on YouTube. Another great way to support Gaze Reading that doesn't cost any money. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Watch over on YouTube. Make sure you're following the podcast on your podcast platform of choice. The numbers really do mean a lot, whether it's downloads or views or listens or whatever. It's the algorithm game. So it really is so greatly appreciated, the reviews, etc. And thank you, as always, for all of your support and those who have written reviews, subscribed, liked, etc. It's just so really lovely and means so much to be supported by this community. So I'm really hoping that everyone is taking care of themselves. The end of the year, I know for me, is a tricky time. It's, I don't know, a weird time of reflection and thinking about the year that we're leaving behind, the year ahead. On one hand, I'm a big believer in resolutions. On the other hand, I think they're so ridiculous and a terrible thing to sort of hold ourselves accountable for. And it's this sort of irrelevant thing. But whatever it means to you, I think there's something really great about a fresh start, whether, whatever that sort of fresh start looks like. That fresh start could be every single day you reflect on a new beginning, or if it's a new year. So anyway, I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you have a wonderful new year, holiday season, and now enjoy my conversation about some of Marion Winik's favorite books of the year. Marion Winik, welcome to Gaze Reading.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you. Not only are we celebrating the 30th anniversary of your book, but you are also a critic, a reviewer for a bajillion publications, and I need to hear from someone who has read exponentially more than me what some of their favorite books of the year have been. And so I'm so excited to talk to you about, which typically would have been a what are you reading episode, but it is now, I guess, a what have you read that we all need to be reading episode. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Listen, I know that you have a little list, so let's start by diving into some of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to hear all about everything else that's going on in your world, which is endless, I feel like.
Let's see. I'm going to pull up my little list myself, and we could talk about my top 10 of the year in fiction. And I know you've had some of these authors on the show, so I won't make a big thing about that. But I know you've had Megha Majumdar, who wrote A Guardian and a Thief, and I did a very early review of that book, and I was blown. I usually am a wimpy reader and don't like to read things that are super dark and upsetting. And this is probably the dark, upsetting book that I can actually say I love it. I loved it. It was unbelievable. It was like a thriller. Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk about it.
Just to lean into that for one more second, I think for me, at first I was overwhelmed by it because it was a little heavy-handed. But when I really thought about the fact that it is this modern day fable, it took my breath away. When I contextualized it in that way, I was like, oh my God.
Locked into this horror. Oh, it is a modern, great way of putting it. What I think about it is it's so easy for people to glaze over when they hear the words climate change. But this book really shows climate change can be something like the Holocaust or whatever. It's really something that could cause a total moral breakdown of our society. It happens in that book. It was great.
Right.
She's great.
Yeah, she's amazing. All right, everyone go read it if you haven't already.
Okay, so then I had the next one I know you haven't talked about and not many people have heard of. It's called Life, Death, and Giants by Ron Rindo. This is quite an amazing book. It's another modern fable because it's about a giant, a huge child with very unusual and fabulous gifts, born in an Amish community in rural Wisconsin. This guy, his mother has already been cast out from the Amish because she's already had one child. She wouldn't say who the father was, and this is the second one. And she still won't say anything. So as the book opens, her 16-year-old son is dragging his mother, who's in labor, over to the large animal veterinarian's house that is near him. And this guy's English, not Amish, because she won't go to the doctor or hospital, and the Amish community has cast them out. So she delivers a baby. He helps her deliver a baby that's over 18 pounds, and she dies. So this baby grows up suckled on goat's milk, raised by his 16-year-old brother, grows to a height of 9 feet and 600 pounds. And I don't want to tell too much, but the book is so amazing. It's written in 4 different voices. One is his grandmother, an Amish woman, and one is that vet, and then one is the bar owner in the town, and one is his football coach, because he goes on to have an amazing sports career, including pro wrestling. So this book has like a wild smorgasbord of topics, and I just couldn't believe it. But I also, at heart, the channeling of the Amish woman's voice was, I've never read anything about Amish people that I was so moved by. So that's Life, Death.
I've seen very little about it, but the few things I have seen have been amazing. And the cover's beautiful. It's definitely on my radar a little bit, and now I want to prioritize.
This is the guy's 4th book. I was surprised. Wow. I'd never heard of him before. He's had a bunch of, he's always with the spiritual themes that maybe don't catch on as big, but this book, John Irving would love it, that's for sure. Anyway, it's very good, and I've tried to keep talking about it, and I'm glad to have one more chance.
Of course. Life, Death, and Giants.
The next book is also, I feel, went a little under the radar. It came out early in the year, last year, and so that's bad because people forget about it by now. But it's called Mona Acts Out by Misha Berlinski. Mona is a Shakespearean actress in New York City. I could not believe this book was written by a man. That's how good she is. It's so great. So she wakes up, it's Thanksgiving Day, she's in her apartment, she's in bed, and she can hear outside her bedroom door her in-laws, her husband, her children, they're all out there deep into some big conversation that she doesn't want to have, and she like immediately reaches over to her night table and starts vaping at 8 a.m. And then she ends up bolting and not instead of making the Thanksgiving dinner, she says she has to go out for parsley, and she doesn't come back till for a while, and it's like almost like a rumspringa to get into the Amish. But it's the other thing that's in this book is she's in a very prominent Shakespearean troupe that's been almost brought down by a Me Too thing that's all over the New York Times. And she's still associated with this troupe. So that's a big factor in how she spends her day. But the whole idea of this character that reaches over. And so I think she's taking Vicodin, she's vaping, and the book ends up dealing with those things in a more serious way. But I love stuff like that. So
this is so good to know. I just looked up the cover. It doesn't even look fun to me.
I tell you, the guy was a National Book Award finalist for his last book. I don't know how he is not getting to be a bigger deal. But
okay.
It is
that's Mona Acts Out by Misha Berlinski.
For people who have loved theater or loved Shakespeare, and everybody's watching Hamnet and thinking about Shakespeare, this book does one of the best jobs I've ever seen of explaining why we really should give shit about Shakespeare. Because that's not something I really know that much about, but it really is inspiring on the subject of Shakespeare.
Okay. Listen, that's good to know in and of itself.
So another book I love, I don't know what it is. I'm like loving all these under the radars, but
under the radars are so important, and it's more fun to talk about them. Last year, I feel like everyone was talking about James, and it was like, I get it, enough. Yeah. Let's talk about the other things.
I know, but that audiobook, oh my God. Okay, so did you hear of Play World by Adam Ross?
Yes. Okay.
Good.
That I have on my shelf. I don't always keep galleys especially that are this thick, that where authors are not going to be on the show. But this one I've heard was so good, and I was like, I have to hold on to it. I've heard it's so terrific. So please tell me everything.
I don't know how old you are, but you look young. And
yes, thank you.
I think if people who remember the 80s will really go for this book because it's so 80s. So it's a year in the life of this prep school freshman named Griffin Hurt, who is he's a star on a really popular TV series, as well as being a high school student and everything. And he's got a problematic wrestling coach. He is still dealing with this trauma he caused a fire in his parents' apartment when he was 6 years old. But the real impending event that starts the book is that one of his parents' friends falls in love with him. So there's a 36-year-old woman is chasing after this high school freshman, and she's serious about it. So, and because it's a 36-year-old woman and a young boy, it's different than the usual inappropriate relationships. And it's very fascinating. And that there's a lot, it's so rich and dense. And it's New York. The book, New York is a character, especially the New York of the 80s. Like the architecture, the way people talk, the popular culture, the public life, the garbage strike or whatever. It's almost like virtual reality when you're reading this book. You're really living in New York in 1985.
Fun.
And so I loved it. Some people, it's long and it's a lot, but to me, it was just priceless.
This year has had plenty of long books, and it's under 500 pages, so it isn't astronomical.
Right. It's not, but considering the other ones.
Right. Compared to Guardian of the
When I love to see a book that's $2.95 or something. You're like, yay, $2.95. Thank you. Okay, so the number one wildest book of the year, you might have had this. Oh, Sky Daddy. Have you read Sky Daddy?
No, but again, I've had a lot of people tell me I would love it and that I need to know about it.
Another modern fable, to be sure. It is whack. It's this, in fact, when I was writing a review of this, my editor kept sending me back going, we cannot use the word crazy. We cannot use the word whack. We cannot I'm like, we ought to use something. Because it's this woman who her whole erotic focus is airplanes. So she is obsessed with having a love affair with a jet. She actually, in her mind, anthropomorphizes them. And her hobby is taking plane once a month and masturbating on the plane. But
oh my God,
what she really wants is to die in a fiery plane crash because she believes that would be like the ultimate consummation of the thing. Anyway, when the book starts, she's such a weirdo and really has never had any friends. And she's like living in this Asian family's garage and is just a very odd little duck. And the girls at work take pity on her and invite her to join their vision board club. So she goes to the vision board brunch, VBB it's called. And she goes to VBB and she makes her vision board, but she knows she can't quite tell them what she's actually looking for. So they all get the
Oh
impression
my
that she's
God.
looking for a pilot, that she wants to date an airline pilot.
Mhm,
And it unfolds. It's an intense book. It's so funny, but in the end, it's intense, and it's really about friendship and outsiders and weirdos. And I think anyone who is a much more popular book is All Fours by Miranda July. Okay,
mhm.
I can confidently say that if you liked All Fours, you're going to love Sky Daddy.
Wow, and a lot of people loved All Fours.
I know, and it's just similar with the whole hilarity about sex and
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's by Kate Folk.
Yes, Kate Folk. Okay, so another debut, and I think I might be the number one super fan of this book is The Boy from the North Country. This is Sam Sussman, who looks exactly like Bob Dylan. Google him now, and you won't believe it. He looks more like Bob Dylan than Bob Dylan looks like Bob Dylan. And he grew up all his life, people telling him about this. His mother did admit that she had a romantic relationship with Dylan, but this novel is based on the period of his life when she called him to come home from living in Europe because she had cancer, and he took care of her at the end of her life, and she finally told him a lot more about her past. And so it's really as much a mother-son book as it is the father-son book. And the mother-son, it's really beautiful and moving. Published as fiction because I think the complexities of it he would rather it be fiction so he doesn't have to argue about how does he know this or what is that. And so I don't believe there's very much he's said. There's really nothing made up in it. So
Wow.
it is really
Okay.
he's a very lush writer. There's like all this beautiful writing about the Hudson Valley countryside, and also one part of it is written in the mother's voice, and that is a really interesting part. So Sam Sussman, remember that name. Then
Amazing.
I'd love to talk about your doorstoppers, the 700-page Loneliness of Sonia and Sonny by Kieran Desai.
Uh-huh.
Have you?
I have not read it, but again, I've heard wonderful things.
It's love affair between two writers. They're both living in the United States, but back in India, there are two families that know each other, try to arrange a marriage between them, and it does not work out at all. But later, it gets off the ground again. And it's one of these books that's about everything. And there's all kinds of great food in it and mythology. There's magical realism. Kieran Desai is the daughter of Anita Desai, who's another prominent Indian novelist. And I got to interview her. She said her mom is her first reader, and she gives her advice. I asked, this book, Kieran Desai's previous work has like one of the saddest endings. This book that won the Booker Prize, The Inheritance of Loss, the ending is so sad I almost couldn't handle it. So this book has a happy ending. And I was so excited for the happy ending because I was bracing myself. And then she told me that her mother told her, this is the ending. So
wow.
Yeah, Kieran Desai is amazing. She won the Booker Prize in 2006 and hasn't left the house since. She wrote this book for 20 years and now is...
Yeah.
It was a Booker nominated, but it didn't win. I think I'd like it more than the one that won, though. Okay, I know you had Lucas Schaefer, The Slip.
I did.
Yes, he is.
But you tell me. I want to hear why you loved it.
Well, I lived in 20 years in Austin, Texas. I always love books that are... I almost always love books that are set in Austin, Texas. That was part of it. But I actually lived in Austin, Texas in the 90s when the book is set. And I even knew what the gym was that they were talking about. I thought it was such a daring book. The things that go on in it are just over the top. Who would do this? No one. And I just couldn't believe it. And it's so bold. There's the trans character. There's the black character. There's this. There's that. It doesn't pull any punches with regard to all these topics that no one will even go near anymore because they're so terrified of getting canceled or whatever. This book could have been canceled about 50,000 times.
Yeah, it really goes there. I know the book is so canceled that it's back to being not canceled.
That's what it is. Writing about a trans person in an era when we didn't have any of this language and it's all so different. And I thought it was Jonathan Irving meets Jonathan Franzen meets even Philip Roth. I thought swings for the fences, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he won the Kirkus Prize. $50,000.
And he won the Kirkus Prize, yes. And he's a delight.
Oh.
I'm a big Lucas Schaefer fan over here.
I'm going to have to get in touch with him because I visit Austin frequently since my son went back home. My sons were born there, and my son that's a musician lives there. So I go down and see their shows and stuff, and I'll have to check out Lucas Schaefer and reveal to him my role in his life because I've really done a lot of.
He would love that, I'm sure.
And then the next one of my very favorites, I know you know about, The Sunflower Boys by Sam Bachman. Oh, what a book. It's just amazing that the best thing I've ever read about the war in Ukraine would be written by this kid from Brandeis. When I've learned about the author, I just couldn't believe it. It's so great that people are not staying in their lane. That Lucas Schaefer and Sam Bachman have something in common, that they both really left their lane behind in these books, and that's what we need.
Sam does have a Ukrainian background, but
that's not the same as being a child in wartime, though.
No, of course. And his time as a teacher was so influential for him, and hearing his story of what was influential for him in writing the book is really stunning.
The way he wove in the kids' artistic aspirations, the structure with the sketchbook, really
the structure is so moving.
I was trying to interested in to see what else he wrote before he wrote this, and he wrote like little essays about being gay or about being Jewish and gay. This was such a brave, amazing debut project, and it's exciting because he's so young. He can have quite a career. I don't think this book has gotten quite the attention that it deserves, but it got a decent amount, and he has a career, and I think he'll do great things. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of my favorite books of the year.
Yay!
Hands down.
Yay!
Yeah.
So that's my fiction list. You want to do memoir?
Oh my God. I can't believe we're done with fiction already.
Or do you want to tell me some that are on your best list that I didn't bring up?
I feel like some of my best lists of the year are some books that have been talked about kind of ad nauseum. One of them being Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey, Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. The book that I would say that has been super under the radar that I loved, and I'm curious if this is one of yours, is Indian Country by Shobha Rao.
God, I've heard about it and I haven't read it. Tell me a little about it.
It's been a minute since I read it, but it's the story of this Indian couple who have immigrated to the United States, and they're living on a reservation. So they're in Indian country. They're Indians living in Indian country here.
So they're Indians from India, but they're living in a Native American place. Oh my goodness.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So it's this really beautiful parallel about the story of immigration and arranged marriage and what it means to be Native. And there's
cool
also
idea.
like a mystery in there.
I seem to generally love Indian novelists and Indian novels. And if I see that it has Indian people in it or was written by an Indian person, my bias is always, probably going to love this. I think their culture has a storytelling tradition or something that people, I love the way a lot of them have a little, not too much magical realism, but some. And I don't know. I've never been to India. Have you?
No, it's on the list for sure.
I want to go on some literary tour of India. I keep thinking that will happen someday.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, they take a bunch of critics and writers to India.
Before we get into your nonfiction list, tell our listeners about First Comes Love. This is the 30th anniversary of your memoir.
Yep. I have a story. In 1983, when I was an MFA student in New York with a big drug problem, and I was also working at the Stanley Kaplan Test Preparation Center writing SAT prep courses. I had this big, crazy life, and like I say, had a drug problem. So my friends thought they really should get me out of the city for a little break, and they decided that we should go to Mardi Gras in New Orleans for this rest cure. I had heard about this. One of the people that we would meet in New Orleans was, in quotes, Tony the gay ice skater. This is how this person was always referred to, Tony the gay ice skater. And my best friend had gone to art school in Lake Placid where Tony was training where the figure skaters train. So she knew him for a while. And just tell, you're going to love him. You're going to love him. Okay, I did love him. I fell really hard in love with him in a way that really a straight person should not be falling in love with a gay man, because it usually can't work out. But he was quite enchanted with me, and we ended up trying to make it work. So we got married eventually. We had children. But in 1985, we found out that he was HIV positive, which was no surprise to him because he'd had 10 years before he met me of the bathhouse life. And I was negative. So because of this, I thought, okay, if I didn't get it yet, I won't get it, because we had not just had unsafe sex, but we also were IV drug abusers. It was a miracle that I didn't get it, but I didn't get it. And this, I thought, now I'm going to have kids. And I still, at this point, thought, oh, they'll definitely find a cure for this soon. And Tony he was positive for at least 10 years that we know of. So it always seemed like something could happen, but it did not. And by 92, the last 2 years of his life were quite a nightmare for us. Although once I had these kids, I completely cleaned up my act and never did hardly ever did any drugs. Tony, once he really believed in the terminal diagnosis, had really resorted to painkillers, shall we say. Yeah. Plus, he also had all the AIDS conditions, and he was really suffering. So the last 2 years weren't too great. But then this is so crazy. My sister was also married to a guy who was dying of AIDS. Our best friend, and he was not gay, but he was. This is where the drugs played a role. So Tony had seen the end of Stephen's life. It's hard for us to even imagine or remember how horrible this was. It really was insane. I know COVID was horrible, but the AIDS deaths were some order of magnitude worse, because people would have so many different diseases, and it would go on so long.
Mm-hmm. And it was also taboo to talk about.
And now people would shun you, and even everything was a big. Tony he didn't want to go through the very, very end, and we arranged to do an assisted suicide. So at the time, I was a commentator on All Things Considered, and it was hard to do the assisted suicide because the doctor prescribed the pills, but then the pharmacist figured it out, and there was all these people trying to get in our way, and it was a felony in Texas for me to even be involved in it. So nonetheless, we did it. We pulled it off. And I'm going on the national radio to talk about this. And NPR was like, you really shouldn't do this. You would be confessing to a felony on radio. But I did it anyway. And there was a little bit of media coverage that wasn't great, like the Houston Chronicle cover. Author confesses to Austin, Texas. This is the period of the slip, too. It's in the 90s. It's a very liberal city. And I was like a minor local celebrity. And I just knew that they weren't going to do anything. And they didn't. Plus, I had 2 little kids, 4 and 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So that's my story. There's so many
things. And then you wrote about it.
Yeah, that were crazy. Yeah. I started writing about it before Tony died. He really wanted me to tell the story. And as far as his life as a gay young man, and when he was still a figure skater and everything, he told me those stories so I could effectively put them in. It turned out there were some things that I didn't really know that I found out later, and that's what there's a new introduction that I was asked. So what happened is there's no audiobook of this thing because it was 1996. So this young trans friend of mine who read the book and she loved it was like, but I'd rather listen to it in audio. And I said, well, there is no audio. And she kept blitzing me about it. And so I looked up the email address of the president of Penguin Random House Audio, and I wrote to them saying, this is my book. You own the audio rights. It's going to be 30 years old next year. What do you think about recorder audio? So they said, I, of course, thought that would go to the spam folder, but no, they wrote me back and said, sure.
Wow.
You'll be hearing from the backlist manager. So once that happened, then Vintage decided, they invited me to write a new introduction and to reissue the print as well along with the audio. So I could not believe any of this was happening. How many 30-year-old books that it wasn't like no big deal, but it wasn't that big a deal. It was no Liars Club or whatever, or Glass Castle, and would get this kind of attention. I don't even know how I got so lucky. That's why I'm on your show.
Yeah, here we are.
One reason is because I've had almost like more success as a career as a book critic than I ever did as a memoirist. So now I have all these connections. Like, why do I have an essay in People magazine this week? Because I work for them. And
Yeah.
so they always say when after a book is 6 weeks old, forget it. You can't get any more publicity. It's dead in the water. Don't even bother. So this is a great story of wait 30 years. And
Yeah,
then
seriously. Listen, you never know. And it is a great story. And it's one of those that it's important to keep reminding ourselves of, especially as a gay person, as a person living in a time where there is PrEP and there is DoxyPep and there are all of these treatments that we don't think about so much anymore what it was like. Oh,
it's so amazing
Okay.
that Tony, he has grandchildren. There's not too many grandchildren from that generation of
wow.
men or women. And it's really special that that happened. And I want them, they're little kids now, but someday I really want them to know about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a story that we think so differently of many things now. Like when I first met Tony, I was running around saying, I'm a gay man in a woman's body, or I'm going to get a sex change so I can be Tony's boyfriend. And the book is full of this stuff because I wrote of me saying all these things that are like, shut the hell up. But
Wow.
anyway, couldn't even really conceptualize it. I don't know how it would play now. It would be so different.
And it's also there are stories of couples getting together and there not being that history and one of them coming out of the closet 20 years into a marriage. And that's really not at all what happened.
Yeah, but that's why this story is so weird. Like when I was on Oprah back in the day, the first question she asked me, she said what you just said. It happens that people come, but you wanted to marry a gay man. It wasn't like a prerequisite, but I was always super attracted to gay culture. I was like trying to get into the El Moroccan Room drag club in Asbury Park when I was 18 years old. Like always had this attraction to the culture. And I think I was a gay man in a woman's body. So who knows? Now I'm just an old lady. It doesn't matter. But
okay, so that is First Comes Love, which is out now. Everyone go get your copy. Go get the audiobook. You read it.
Yeah. It's also, we didn't say this, but it's pretty funny. Like considering what it's about, it's notably has a lot of humor in it. And though people are always amazed that it can have any humor in it, but it does. So don't worry. You'll be laughing a little bit.
So all of that said, obviously we're talking about your memoir. What are some of your favorites of the year? For the rest of this conversation, make sure to head on over to the Gaze Reading Substack. You'll hear about Marion's favorite nonfiction books, favorite memoirs, and learn so much more about what the process is like writing for Kirkus, writing for People, writing other reviews, etc. Thank you all so much for being here. Happy New Year. I'll see you in a few weeks for the brand new 2026 season of Gaze Reading. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.